Hello and welcome back to Warrington Basketball. Today's episode is Battle of the Clubs, and I am joined by Bridgewater Jets chairman Stephen Welsh and Northwich chairman Tom Shoebrook. So the clubs that are going to be battling out today are, of course, Northwich and Bridgewater. Guys, out of the two of you, who has got the better club?
I'll let Tom, you go first. You defend your club first, I think.
No, Steve, after you. Age before beauty.
All right. Well, I think in terms of like goals for our club, our goal is to become as big as we can and provide basketball in the local area. And I think obviously we've got around about 200 kids that play games each week. So in terms of kind of our targets to become bigger and provide basketball locally, I'd say that obviously we hit that target. I don't know what obviously your club goals are, Tom.
You should know, Steve, because I sent you the development document, which is 32 pages long, and you read and gave me feedback on it. So you should have a mild idea after that.
Well, it's
got quite clear goals.
Obviously, it depends on how high up you're wanting to grow and offer participation. I know you've got other things that you plan on doing.
Our aim is just to give a really great experience and to keep growing and building basketball in an area which isn't the traditional basketball area like Warrington. And giving our kids a really good experience through the thing. I'm a bit surprised you don't know that. As I say, you've read that on multiple occasions.
Obviously,
and you've taken some of it for Bridgewater. So
yeah, obviously the viewers at home don't know what I know, so I was just giving you opportunity to express about your club. I think in terms of obviously my club, our club, we go up to under 21s. And then from there, I'd say maybe one of the things that we don't do as well as Northwich is putting a men's team together, for example. But obviously once they get to under 21s, they go off to university or get jobs, and then we tend to lose them. But a lot of them will carry on playing at the ball hall in their own little teams and stuff like that. So I think if we were going to look at obviously overall picture, probably one of the holes that we've got at Bridgewater is maybe having a men's team. Obviously in the pipeline, we're looking at putting a girls setup together and then maybe getting like a girls only training session and maybe building up into a 3-on-3 and then hopefully progressing the league a little bit. I think that's probably where we've got maybe a little bit more of a jump on Northwich, I think.
Yeah, we've got coaches on a Friday night, so I think that's an advantage over Bridgewater. What do you feel about that, Josh?
Yeah, I think if you look at in the past seasons, obviously when we moved on to a Friday initially, we did struggle for coaches, but we do have, each team now has kind of a coach that's associated with them, or it might be an older player that will help manage minutes and stuff. Obviously, it'd be a similar situation with your club. You've got a lot of teams on a Friday, and it tends to be you've got yourself as a coach, and there might be one other. So I think if you've got a clash, or if we can't get fixture requests that are satisfied by the league,
Josh always does a great job for our fixture requests if we get them in advance.
Obviously, it's difficult to manage, and I think getting volunteers. If you looked at the volunteers that we've got a big volunteer base. We get like some of the older players will help out at training sessions. Obviously, will be overseen by myself. We get parents who are getting involved, who've got like a keen interest in maybe getting involved in coaching. And I think in terms of the growth of volunteers that we've got now, we're in a really, really good position. And I'd probably say that we've probably got the best volunteer base for coaches at the ball hall, I think, now.
Okay, so I've got the Twitter up here on the laptop, and we've got some questions in after putting this out as a tweet. This is from @Toey_Sutton. It is saying that both teams have not had a very successful season this season. Can you give me some feedback on that, please? Good question, @Toey_Sutton, whoever that is.
So I think if we look at the season this year was cut short due to COVID.
Yeah.
If you look at the Friday leagues, I think both Northwich and Bridgewater didn't. Well, how did you guys finish, Tom?
We did really well.
I think if we pull that information up, I know we've had a conversation about this privately. I think the only kind of team that you thought were potentially going to win a title was the men's team, which I play on. However, I think
plays probably stretching a little bit. You're a registered.
I think maybe time team might have arguments about that, to be fair. But obviously, if you look on the under 21s, that was Wildcats and St Helens first and second. Under 17s was, I think, Wildcats and St Helens again. So in terms of Friday, neither of us really achieved in terms of titles. But from our club's point of view, we try and get more kids in. So if you're looking at successes, it's not necessarily wins and losses. However, if we go on to a Saturday, like when the leagues were all cut short, we had year 3, 4s. I think they ended up finishing first and second in the league.
You've got some issues if you're boasting about how well year 3, 4s are
obviously
doing.
that was the tweet that came in. Year 5 and 6, I think we maybe finished second and third. Obviously then we had the second division as well, where they finished maybe mid-table, and then you had the 7 and 8s and 9 and 10s, which I think each team did well. They all improved as the season went on. How did your season go in terms of actual results, Tom?
So in terms of actual results, well, like you know from National League, Steve, wins and losses aren't important. I believe your last winning season was the one that I assisted you on. And that was, 5 years ago? So I don't think wins and losses are what we judge it on. Similar to Bridgewater. Bridgewater have got some similar philosophies to us in terms of these things. We got a whole 2 teams worth of new players playing one on a Friday and one on a Saturday, and we moved from about 6 or 7 kids playing year 5, 6 on a Sunday in Northwich to 20 to 25 when we broke up. So those are our gains. I think when you're saying we're trying to be popular, we're trying to promote, we're trying to build, one of the main aims that you can do, one of the ways that you can look at that dispassionately, as well as numbers, because obviously your kids are quite close to the centre, our kids are travelling, is looking at stuff like social media. So if you look at the social media, your Facebook, how many likes have you got?
That's a big shout, isn't it? That is a big shout.
Yeah, I'd have to come back.
Like the great American philosopher JC says, Steve, men lie, women lie, numbers don't.
Yeah.
Now,
let me just dig that information up, because
don't worry about digging it out, Steve. I've got it right here in front of me.
Okay, well, you let me know then. You let me know.
Bridgewater Jets, you've got 649 likes.
I think that's a solid number, that.
It's a solid number. Big increase from when I last noticed.
Yeah, it's a solid number. It's good. You've improved a little bit. You're rocking at 6 likes above Cheshire Wire, who are obviously a bit more successful as a team than you on the court. But Northwich, we're on 838, and we're still growing. We've gone up this year. I think part of it is we don't just post asking for money.
I don't think, I think, obviously...
What do you think, Josh? You're skilled on the social media side of things.
Yeah, I think maybe there's a bit more variation, although I've not seen a Northwich post for some time, apart from, obviously, the standard COVID stuff, which I've noticed, actually, for both clubs, Bridgewater and Northwich, they are worded very, very similar, almost like they've been copied and pasted.
Yeah.
I don't know whether or not one was first and someone else copied, or whether or not you both copied off a different club.
Obviously, we do tend to work together. Obviously, we've got similar philosophies for the club.
Right together, Steve will wait for me to release something and then take it and put it on his.
If we go back to the posts that are similar, I think you'd have to look at the timestamp, and you might be a little bit slower in posting. So I don't know how believable that would be.
What do you think about National League, Steve? I think you use it. You play quite close to the rules, don't you? Much like St Helens.
Yeah. So, in terms of the league, you have kind of the homegrown National League players. So if you have a team that, say for example, have all been together since they've been 10 years old, so like year 5, and then as they all go up, if they've had, you might have a group of kids that are pretty good, and then National League trials come around and like they get selected. Say maybe 6 of their team become selected, that team is then...
They must be a really good team if 6 of them are National
this
League
is
players.
just an example. So obviously those 6 players become classed as homegrown National League players. So then you can't add any more because you're over the quota of 3. But if you were putting a new team in, then obviously your limit is 3 National League players. You can add new players in that maybe have the potential to turn into National League players, but I think with our club, we tend to, like, ultimately we're trying to be competitive in games, and I think we don't want to be in a position where we don't lose a game all year because it becomes pointless for the kids. So if we get to a point...
Would you not do stuff like adding a academy player from Leicester, from Charnwood College, into an already strong under-17s team, just to get a win against a club from the north of Warrington?
That'd be one certain occasion, wouldn't it, I think?
Do you not do things like that?
No, I think obviously ultimately the whole goal of the club is for kids to play, and if they're in competitive games based on other weeks that obviously with the coach's corner, you've spoken about competitiveness. So we regularly will split a team if we end up with more players, and we'll try.
I notice you dancing around this particular question, which was quite a specific question.
So yeah, I've said that was the one specific point. That was one of our Friday teams that is kind of loosely associated with us. Obviously, it carries the Bridgewater name. They have their own coach. They obviously are part of that. Obviously, generally, as a club, what we tend to do, if we've got more players, then we'll split them and try and make sure that they're relatively balanced, so we have teams that are competitive within the league.
I think one of the things that Bridgewater are stronger than us on, Josh, is taking players from other clubs. They're good at that. They're not as good as some of the other ones, but they're pretty strong at that with these connections.
Have you got examples?
We've only got 20 minutes, Steve. I haven't got time to run through them all.
Because if we look historically at your club, when you guys played, a lot of your better teams would be players who were local to Warrington.
100% agree.
Put in.
Or from the Wirral, one of our good players here is you can see in this background.
I don't know how they got into that position, to be fair. I don't think they would be able to get in that position again.
For those unsure, that is Steve Welsh being stretched out by Joe Travis, but for some reason his leg is possibly dislocated or just wrapped round, or he's got a fake leg there. I don't know how he's got into that, but that was back when he was...
I think it was photoshopped.
A avid yoga participator, so I can imagine that's why he was so limber.
I think that's one of the things that we are moving to do, that I think, because Bridgewater do a really good job of their participation stuff and getting lots of kids into play, which we also is probably our number one priority. One of the things that we're building on is things like working with Andre's gym, BTB in Winsford, really good gym set up, just had a new being kitted out over the pandemic on the top floor. And we're going to be working with Mike Smith, who's a coach at Cheshire Wire and does a lot of nutrition stuff as well, to sort of look at nutrition plans for some of the kids, is building the external things around it to try and create well-rounded athletes and people. So I think that's something that we're trying to build up, plus a bit of video analysis of something that I'm ordering this week. So I think some of the things around the outsides of it, we would do more of than Bridgewater would. What do you think to that, Steve?
I think obviously we've spoken about this off camera anyway, about kind of adding value to your club. So if you've got members, see, some members are just literally there to have fun and obviously enjoy their basketball, and then you've got others that are maybe a little bit more focused on, like, they have basketball as more of a priority. So being in a position to offer like strength and conditioning, nutritional advice, I think is a good thing. It's not something that necessarily fits the club as a whole.
Why don't you think people should eat well as a whole?
I think when it comes down to like priorities for me, it's like from a basketball point of view, nutrition is different to if you were a weightlifter. So for some of our kids, it would just be they're coming for fun. Obviously, if we've got kids that do want to obviously focus a little bit more, we can point them in directions. So obviously, you said about Mike Smith. Obviously, he's one of your players. He coaches one of our teams as well. So he's a resource that we could tap up as well.
No, I've said it, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's obviously it's there. It's obviously it's looking at your club, and then
now we can see Josh once again. Steve runs a
looking
good
at
club.
it's looking at your club, seeing where the holes are, and then obviously pushing the resources that way.
We've had another tweet through from @BallerSW. None of the Northwich teams have a full kit. I think that's aimed at you, Tom. What would your response be to that? And your team?
The way we do it differently from Bridgewater and most of the other clubs, I think, is that each kit is the player buys it.
Okay.
So each kit is owned individually by that player, and that allows them to play up from any age group from year 7, 8 all the way up to men's. And they've all got individual discrete numbers with a significant age gap between people who've got the same number, because obviously we've got 100 plus players. So, for example, Steve, when he was in his prime 5, 6 years ago, when he was playing for Northwich, when he was playing on the Friday Night League, could play on the under-20s, he could play under-25s, and he could play on a Tuesday in the men's team. And he wouldn't need to worry about 3 lots of kits. He wouldn't need to worry about us taking them home and doing it. So it's all like, it's the players, they own it, they move between clubs. We don't tend to lose a lot of players from Northwich. So it's a good investment for them, but they need to actually make that investment. I know when people like Steve, he won't mind me saying this, but he put quite a lot of weight on leading up to the lockdown. So maybe he was a bit more bursting out that kit, but now he's been visiting the gym so often, and he'll be absolutely flying when we get back. And I'm fully expecting him to be adding some more minutes onto the Steve Welsh baller highlight tape.
Yeah. Another tweet that's come through @Winsford Big Man Bridgelater. I assume that means Bridgewater. Bridgelater don't even have a YouTube channel.
Do you not have all the YouTube channels, Steve?
We don't. To be fair, it's not something that we looked at. It could be something that we could look at in the future, but I think
you not get to that page of our development plan yet.
Well, no, it's we're
having someone read it to you.
I think in terms of getting the club back up and running, because obviously we've had a global pandemic that we're still going through. Obviously, we put in place a COVID team. So we've got a group of volunteers. It's about maybe 16 or 17 parents have all volunteered to say that when we do get up and running, they're willing to screen at sessions, to take temperatures. We've got.
I don't know what this has got to do with YouTube, Josh.
Well, no, it's
he's a politician answering these questions, isn't he?
It's prioritizing. So I think in terms of like a YouTube channel, I think a YouTube channel will be good. But in terms of actually getting back up and running, there's a lot of legwork that needs to be done in the background, and we've got things that are in place. So we're looking to start in the next couple of weeks actually running physical sessions, so that we're then ready to obviously offer more basketball locally and get the kids playing in the ball hall, which starts towards the end of September. So I think in terms of YouTube channel, we haven't got one. I think prioritizing wise, it's getting the club back up and running in a safe manner where we can offer basketball to the local kids, give them opportunity to play and go from there. And then YouTube might be something that happens in the future.
Very well said, Steve. Very well said. I like that. Development he's all about. So whoever @Winsford Big Man is, I don't think YouTube is that important. Although now as a league and as a whole unit and family, Warrington Basketball will be covering all teams.
That's good, because I know there's some controversy from some of the external teams that the borehole development officer only covers the Warrington-based area and doesn't offer any support to the further out teams. And I don't say this, but I've heard it said around the canteen area before it got closed that he disproportionately sends players to Bridgewater based on their ability level and whether he thinks they're gonna enhance the club with their parents possibly as great volunteers or things like that. And then he'll turn around and boast about how strong his volunteer base is. Have you heard that, Steve?
I can't say I have. That's news on me, to be fair. But I do believe that the development officer does a really good job of attracting players and getting them in. Also believe that I think there's been 2 new clubs that have been formed. Obviously, that might be circumstantial. We've got Culture of Cobras, we've got Tornadoes that are relatively new. So I think in terms of growing, like the club base, I think
has he done a good job growing all the clubs, the Warrington-based clubs?
Not particularly all of them. I think obviously, as a whole, the ball hall's getting a lot stronger. We've got more clubs now, and then it's a case of if a club, obviously local to Warrington, will approach the development officer and say that we need a couple of players, the development officer will put players from the come and try in.
This will build quicker for the Warrington Basketball leagues, and when we've got the association all set up and we're back, that will be something that will be happening. And I can imagine we'll be much more successful. We've had some, I'd say, pretty direct and harsh tweets today, which is strange since we don't have many tweets on the Twitter account. We've not actually got that many followers. So those that are watching that want to follow us on Twitter, it's at
what's the address?
At WA Basketball. We will put the link in. Tom will make sure that's done for you, because I know you like to get straight onto the description for this. For those that have got an opinion on this, drop a comment below. Let us know who you think out of Northwich and Bridgewater, who is the stronger club. And then also let us know who you think should be the next.
Are we going to wrap up what our strengths of our club are?
Yes, yeah. Both give me your 3 main strengths for each club, please. Tom Schubert, you've obviously got some loaded, so you can start. Steve, you've got some time.
No, Steve, go Steve first. He's doing a great job.
This will give you a chance to copy our strengths, and then you go, yeah, they were ours too.
Well, yeah, I would say our strengths, we're an independently run club that doesn't get support off the ball hall in any way. Unlike some, that's not one of our strengths. That's not one of our top 3. But we run our own session involving a full day at Leisure Centre on Sundays, where players can come and play. Everyone can come and join in. It goes from year 3, 4 all the way up to men's, and it involves baskets and basketballs of the correct size for each age group throughout the whole of the day. We're going to be expanding that into local stuff for like 3-on-3 and 4-on-4 to give people a chance to get involved in competition at an age which is appropriate and a size of court which is appropriate, so that they develop and they're ready to move on to the next level. So that's our first strength. I would say our second strength is we've had some incredible players come through the club, including the likes of Andy Galloway, Will Galloway, Darwin, Jamal, Josh Swigan, who's back at Worcester now, Conor Murtagh, Dominic O'Neill. So if you look at a lot of the people that are the life of the centre and the build of the centre, we've had a part to play in a lot of them. And Steve Welsh is also a legendary player for the club. He's played over 100 games, high score of 30 points, I believe, in one game. Really, really skilled. So that's our second point. And the third point is that we're offering we're trying to create holistically like young people who are successful on and off the court, and that is reflected in the way that our kids do. Every year we've got over, I think, 30 different schools now. It might be more, it might be 40 different schools that we have players from, and that goes through all the way up to college, where we're linked with the top academic sixth form college in the country. But we've also got kids attending 3 or 4 different other colleges all across the Northwest and doing fantastically well. So there are our 3 main points.
Nice and concise. Nice and concise. Thank you. So I think obviously 3 points that we've got that are obviously our strengths. We're kind of predominantly volunteer based. We've got a big volunteer base where we've got parents getting involved. There's kind of no barriers to players who want to go down the coaching route. So I'll ask a lot of the kids if they want to get involved in coaching, then we'll get them involved in a session and they'll be kind of closely monitored by one of our coaches. So I think in terms of that, we're very, very welcoming. I think that'll be our first one, welcoming, and then we've got obviously a big volunteer base. I think the second one is obviously it's participation based, so it doesn't matter what ability the kid is. We'll work with the kid and kind of put them into kind of ability groups that is relevant for them, so they enjoy the session, I think. And then I think the last one would be that all the kids that we have at the club enjoy the sessions that they're at. Each year we've got bigger and bigger, and a lot of our promotion comes through word of mouth, friends of friends, and then you might get some of the kids from the ball hall that come and try. Because we've got such a big base, they might have friends from school, and then that's how we grow year on year. So I think there are three really.
I think for Warrington Basketball, both clubs are very key to the development and where we're aiming to go. And I think you'll both be you'd be key figures in that. We've got one more tweet to finish on. It's from @J_Mac. Mr. Shoebrook, why do you always have shrapnel and can't pay with notes?
Well, interestingly, we've moved on to the iZettle contactless system now.
Nice.
So we will be able to pay the ball hall with a card. I'm assuming you've got those facilities as a major venue.
Yeah, of course.
So we'll be able to accept payment as a card, and we'll pay you with a card.
One more tweet's coming through. When will the scoreboards and canteen? Oh, it doesn't matter. We'll finish there. Guys, thanks very much for watching. We'll catch you again soon. Make sure you comment below. Include who you think should be partnered up against what club versus which other club, and comment below with who you think the stronger teams are. Thank you,
Josh. Thank you, Steve.
Cheers. Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Tom.
God bless.